And we are back, people. It's Wake Up Nigeria, of course. It's time for our relationship segment. And today we are discussing a very, very pertinent issue that a lot of people can relate with. And doing justice to that is Bisi Folari. And we will be talking about domestic violence. Olabisi Folari is a professional counselor and a certified relationship and marriage coach with 2 decades of experience to her name. She is also the founder and head of faculty at Threefold Chord Marriage Academy. You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks for being here. I love your red, very popular.
Thank you.
Now let's talk about domestic violence. We see it all around us. Some of us even experienced it growing up. Now let's talk about the 3 major aspects of domestic violence that you would like to touch on quickly.
Okay, let me touch on awareness and prevention together. I would like to start with the singles because when we talk about these things, we don't go back to the roots. There's always a beginning. So for the singles, first off, I think your whole senses should be awake when you're in a relationship. So what I mean by that is the signs are always there. People say, but I didn't see that. It's not quite true. But your senses need to be engaged, your 5 senses.
Yeah, but it's difficult, to be honest, because like they say, love is blind. And it actually plays a very, if not, very critical role, especially in that, first stage or in the first stage of the relationship. So let's first of all define what domestic violence is so that people get a clear perspective of what it is. Does it come in like different areas as well, like in different, like emotional, does it also involve emotional violence and apart from physical abuse? Definitely. So let's define what it is and then we'll take it on.
So anything that, disrupts your well-being,
okay,
in a domestic setting, either mentally, emotionally, physically, it's a form of abuse. Okay. So it's not just physical, even though I want to drill it down to physical. There's emotional abuse, there's financial abuse as well. There's mental, there's emotional, yes.
Okay.
There is. So as I was saying, for the singles, you were saying you didn't quite agree. I can understand, but you said love is blind. Maybe I don't quite agree. What happens is we get our emotions be clouded by things like sex. That's why those of the faith-based would advise you don't. Because what that does is an hormone is released when you do that. That just keeps you bonded and glued to that person. You go past their faults, your brain short circuits that part of it. That's what oxytocin does. So that's why they advise against that. In marriage, you need your oxytocin to be able to, be blind to their faults because you've accepted them already.
Okay, so you don't need it in a relationship, but you need it when you're married.
Yes, as in before. Because you can't make sound judgment. When I say your 5 senses should be allowed, you pick signals. Somebody who is always controlling, they are already trying to alienate you from your family members. Why are you so close? I don't think I want you to be we won't be having that kind of proximity with family members.
Somebody who has experienced that for the major part of their life may not understand that it's a problem or it's not normal.
As a single or as a married?
As a single person.
Seeing that growing up, you feel they might not understand that is a form of abuse.
Exactly.
That's where our awareness is key. And apart from you having your senses all alert and looking out for the signals as a single, you also want to make sure that if you're in a relationship with somebody, the church counseling is not the first point of contact you should have with counseling. Always speak with a professional counselor before the church counseling.
Okay.
I always say that. You know why? Some of those people don't have any business making it to the church stage, this church counseling stage. If you have seen an independent professional counselor, some of the things, they don't know you, they're not sentimental towards you, they just, advise you based on they tell you based on the facts before them, and they leave you to make the choices. They show you the pros and the cons. So if a lot of people actually engage in the service of professional counselors before the church counseling, what we find out at the church counseling stage is a lot of assurity has been bought. Parents are involved. So even when they are seeing it and you're trying to show them, they want to excuse it and like, oh, we'll work it out, we'll pray about it. So those are some of the things that actually escalate in marriage. What you see will always, any traits you see, most likely marriage will amplify them. Do you understand? Not necessarily erase them.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's for the single. Now for the married stage, I want to say one of the ways we can create awareness is with our parents as well. This age-long tradition of you don't have a home in my house after you get married, I think it's about time to be abolished. Would you rather your child be brought in a body back to you, or you would, accept them for a while they sort out their issues? So those are some of the reasons why women also remain. There's just nowhere to go to for, I mean, I know men are also abused, but talking about the women now, those are one of the fundamental reasons. They probably don't have anywhere to go. They're not some are not financially empowered enough to. So I think parents and society will help as well. Don't castigate people. Not everybody went into marriage with the intention of getting out back. You understand? And then we've seen there's also the case of unwanted pregnancies before marriage. You understand? The guy probably doesn't even know what he's doing. He's probably an abuser. And you are saying, sorry, oh, you've gotten pregnant, go and marry. Those are the things, those are the kind of people that get married sometimes, and then we are shocked that abuse is happening. So those are part of the awareness. Society is pretty much needs to be involved, especially our parents' generation. This idea of you don't have a room, you're telling them, don't do that, don't do that. I mean, I personally believe that parenting is for life.
So now that you have touched on awareness, now let's look into prevention. How do you prevent domestic violence if you're faced with it, especially if you're a victim?
Well, if you're already a victim, first things to do is remove yourself from the environment of harm. Marriage is not meant to bruise you. You're supposed to be better. In marriage, two should be better than one. Okay. So marriage should make you, not mar you. If you're being threatened or you're experiencing physical violence, the first thing to do is to remove yourself from the harmful environment. If we were abroad, I'm not so sure how rigid those laws are here, but if you're abroad and you report to the police, they actually escort you there with a restraining order. They ask you if there's somewhere you can stay. They want to be sure, and they serve the restraining order to that party. So right now, I don't know how strong our laws here in Nigeria, but you can escalate. When you're being beaten, you don't stay there and keep quiet. You escalate and make sure you are removed from the environment. It can still be resolved, but please, only living people can reconcile. So the first thing is life.
All right. So the thing is, domestic violence is, there is not enough time.
Definitely not.
To discuss it, because there's so many areas of domestic violence that we need to discuss, and just this little time is not enough to address it. I believe that we will discuss this. We'll touch on intervention next week. On this same topic on domestic violence. But thank you so much, Olabisi Folarin. It's always a pleasure having you here. And yes, you can also contact the Domestic and Sexual Response Violence team here in Lagos if you are currently a victim of domestic violence, or if you know anybody who's facing that. The numbers are on your screen, people. Do not miss out on that. Please do not wait for things to escalate before you speak up and speak out and get out. And that's it on domestic violence related issues.